Hello and welcome to Keep Hope Alive. I'm Nadine and it is Thanksgiving Day. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Today we got a special guest. Her name is Jamie Vaughn. Welcome to the show. So
Oh, good. Thank
Jamie
you.
you're welcome. She's a retired school teacher, a mom of three adult children, and a wife to an amazing husband, Feral, and dog mom and a glamma. I like that word, glamma. I haven't heard that yet, so I'm gonna borrow it. And has two beautiful granddaughters. So, Jamie, you were telling me you are a survivor, a fighter, an advocate of breast cancer, and that's your main focus is getting the word out about breast cancer and sharing that experience. And I know you created a podcast on it, but I want to go into who is Jamie Vaughn?
Oh, well, thank you so much, Nadine. I really appreciate your having me on your show. It's such an honor. And I just feel like, I've met the most incredible people just because of what I went through and what I do now. I am a retired school teacher. I taught in our school district for 20 years, and my husband did as well. And we are retired. And I have done a million things in my past. I have always had a business on the side. I even had a podcast before this podcast. I have always had a side job and things like that. So I've just always been really, really, really busy. And in June of 2022, I had a huge retirement party. It was very lovely. I was super excited about it. And then, literally 1 week later, I found out that I had stage two breast cancer. And that sort of completely changed what I was planning on doing in my retirement. So I had to figure out what I was going to do to at least, keep myself alive, keep some sort of normalcy, and go through this god awful, journey that has led me to so many other things. It's a lot of silver linings, but it was one of those things where you're sort of climbing through the fire to get to where I am now. And so I I just, I'm here to tell my story and to help other people. And because one of the things that I realized when I was diagnosed is that this is really, really overwhelming when you get diagnosed. And, everywhere from learning different terms in what kind of treatment they're wanting to do for you because of the type of cancer you have, what's going to happen with your hair, your skin, your nails, your mouth, your everything, your sex life, your everything. And and then trying to figure out what kind of surgery I was going to have and what my daily life was going to look like, how sick I was going to be. It was just so overwhelming that in the end, when I got myself through everything, and rest assured, I'm still going through things. I still have another surgery to do next month, but I just really got to a point last February after I was finally cancer free. I realized that, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm going to do with my life. Like, I don't have any significance. I always had significance. I was always doing things, I had so many responsibilities. And then all of a sudden I didn't. And I didn't feel like I had a purpose. And so I realized that I needed to be part of the sisterhood community to help just kind of shepherd other breast cancer patients through. And I had made so many connections to all kinds of people, oncologists and surgeons and therapists and other survivors, that I'm like,
Yeah.
podcast. And that is when Test Those Breasts podcast was born. Yeah.
That is so amazing. So, yeah, and it's a great feeling that you can help all these women around, that are going to have so many questions. And, you're looking into each and every detail too, to kind of guide them and say, this is something that I experience and you may expect, going through this. So, is it like all over the world for your podcast? People coming through?
Yeah, I actually launched it on June 11, 2023, only what, 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And if 6 months ago, I guess. And that was the 1 year anniversary of my diagnosis. It was very significant for me to do that. And I release every Sunday at 7 a.m. Pacific time, like clockwork. And I've got about, let's see, this Sunday it'll be 28 episodes. And yes, I have had people reach out to me from all around the world. I've interviewed people all around the world. I've interviewed my own therapist that I reached out to when I was first diagnosed in Australia. Interviewed him, Eddie Enever, and he was amazing. He's the one that really took his hand, that hand, and really took me out of the darkness. And because I was really in a dark place when I was first diagnosed, and a lot of people do find themselves in that, and it's very scary. And so I really wanted to help people advocate for themselves. I want people to obviously test those breasts. That's the name of it. It's all around the premise of early detection is key. And
Mhm.
so the earlier we can find it, they can find it. It's not necessarily going to be easy, but it is going to be better than what it would be if it was like in stage 3 and 4 in the lymph nodes and things like that. So I just really wanted to help other women understand how to advocate for themselves, because I had many situations where I had to advocate for myself. And I had to sort of come across as kind of an ass to people, because I wanted to be able to ask my questions. I wanted people to tell me, my providers to tell me how I can get something done, not what I can and cannot do. And that's really a hard thing for some people to do, but it's incredibly important to get second opinions. And I wanted to help people, figure out what modality would help them best to be able to go through their treatments and their healing. The podcast for me right now, in the part of the journey that I'm in, is that modality. It was originally started as a healing mechanism. And I also had that deep, dark, fiery desire in my stomach to help other people. Like, I want to save
Yeah.
the world, Nadine. And it's really
Yeah.
hard to save the world. So I'm just going to keep doing what I can do as a sister in my community.
That is amazing. Yeah. So I know with Keep Hope Alive, everybody has a story that they want to share, and it covers a spectrum of things. So we'll have different guests come and say, I want to talk about this. And I get a lot of authors and life coaches, yoga instructors, just everything. I had one musician, no, sorry, two musicians, which I love the music, and then I want to like climb through the event industry and just go all about, because in this world, this life, there's so much we don't know, and the guest that will come in and talk to everybody is amazing. So, but you're helping the world, and that's what matters. You're giving that insight. And I know, like, I was catfished not too long ago, and happened with one person, but eight different accounts. And it even happened with a video call to make him look like that celebrity.
Oh,
And I'm like, are you kidding me? Because this was just like, I would love to interview you sometime. I thought I had the right account, but no. So being catfished, that was scary to learn what AI is going to be doing to us. So I'm going to bring awareness to that. So there's a lot of
that's,
different changes. Yeah.
yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Thank you for doing that.
But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I've had people reach out to me. I had one gal reach out to me from India. Her name is Jyoti, and she said, "Hey, she sent me a message on Instagram and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know that I ran across your podcast, Test Those Breasts, and I'm wondering if you might have some time to talk with me. My sister just was diagnosed. She's in India, and she was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And I started to get to know her through this chat.
Yeah.
And she was asking me questions, and so I don't sell anything.
Yeah.
I'm just I just want to be a resource for people and help them in any way that I can. So she was asking me all these questions, and I'm able to because of what I have my pulse, my fingers on the pulse of, resources. I'm able to kind of direct people to what they should look into or whatever. And anyway, long story short, she introduced me to her sister. Her sister is like 30, I want to say she's 31 or 32. Younger women are getting breast cancer. And I noticed that there's so many, and some people don't have genetics. As a matter of fact, the majority of people who get breast cancer, it's not even in their genes. And so there's this myth that says, oh, I'm okay. I don't have to, go get any kind of mammograms. I don't have it in my family. And that is just not the case. It wasn't genetic for me. But I have been finding more and more younger women. So now we have a standing Zoom call every Sunday. Her sister's in Australia. And then her sister who has the breast cancer is in India, and here I am in the United States. We're on all three different time zones,
Yeah.
and so we had to pick this one time. So we got on the Zoom and met each other. So I'm talking to these people from two different parts of the world to help this girl with her breast cancer and how to get through some
Oh,
fears and how to handle the loss of her hair and all of the things. So it's been
yeah.
very rewarding to talk about something that needs to be talked about. I mean, just like much like you and your podcast,
Yeah.
having these a myriad of different topics that are so important and people need to talk about it, bring awareness.
Exactly. Yeah. So I want to backtrack a little bit because when you first you did you just like go to get tested like normal and then they told you? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 56 years old, and I've been getting mammograms for many years. And in the last 10 years, I've had two lumpectomies. And so when I would go in to get my mammogram, it came back abnormal, or they saw something suspicious, like a lump in there. They did see a lump, and they had to do two lumpectomies and get it biopsied, and they turned out to be benign, but gosh, scary nevertheless.
Yes.
And so I've just always been very, very, I haven't always been the kind to like always feel my breasts. I mean, I feel my breasts because I really love my breasts, right? So I'm always feeling them. But I didn't like always like feel them on the first and, kind of go all around and things like that. But I did go in and get my mammogram every single year. And
Sure.
the spring before I was diagnosed, I was finishing out my last year of teaching, super excited about it. And I recall in hindsight feeling a lump, and it was a different kind of lump. And I was kind of like, what's that? And I thought, okay, well, I have lumpy boobs, and because I have dense breast tissue, a lot of women do. And so I thought, okay, well, I'll go, I go in every year, and they didn't see anything last year. And then I would feel kind of burning sensations, like twinges. It would kind of take me off guard and be like, what was that? And then it would go away, and I'm like, okay, everything's okay. And then I would say it was like a couple days before my retirement party, I got a little ping on my phone where it says, "Hey, it's time for your mammogram." And so I picked up the phone and called to make an appointment to get my mammogram. My husband and I were sitting out front in the front yard having a beer. And I said, she's asked me the questions. Have you felt anything abnormal? Have you felt any lumps or whatever? And I said, no, no, because I thought, in 3 weeks when I go in, I'm going to have my mammogram and they'll see, right? And I couldn't go in for 3 weeks because that you can only get them for sure insurance. You can only get it every year, and so it has to be at least one day past the last time that you got it. So it was 3 weeks out. And anyway, I've hung up the phone, and my husband said, that's not true. You actually do feel a lump, and I felt it, and you actually did feel some interesting things going on in your breasts. And I said, you're right. What am I doing? So I picked the phone back up and I said, that's not true. I do feel a lump and I have had these little sensations. And so they moved the mammogram up by 3 weeks, because if that is the case, they will move it up. And I literally went in to get my mammogram 3 days after my retirement party. And the radiologist called me back and said that they saw these groupings of calcifications, which always concerns them. That's why they don't want you to wear deodorant, by the way, or any lotions when you go in to get your mammogram. That's why,
Oh,
because it
okay.
mimics what those look like. So you don't, I never knew that. Like, that is something I literally learned just
I
a
just
few
learned
weeks
that from
ago.
you. Wow.
Didn't even, right. So there are things that I'm still learning. And that's the important part, is that I get to be part of putting that out there. And so anyway, and then he said, and there's an associated mass. So he got me into a biopsy. I got the biopsy that Friday. And by Saturday afternoon, I knew that I had breast cancer. And,
Oh,
it just completely threw me for a loop. But luckily, I found it early. It was stage 2, but I am curious why they didn't detect anything the year before. So
yeah,
when people say, oh, I'll go every other year or whatever, no, no, you need to go and you need to make sure that you're getting the proper, testing for your breasts. And so anyway, that was, and then I was just thrown into this whirlwind treatment. I had to get a port. I had to have a PET scan, a CT, an MRI, an EKG, an echocardiogram. And then I had 5 of my 6 rounds of chemo, and went through the whole hair loss. I had long blonde hair like you for years. And now it's short and it's my mom's color. It popped out my mom. um, so, and I was scared. I was just
yeah.
downright scared. And so I'm on the healing path still. And I went to New Orleans to get my
Hmm.
breast surgery. So I didn't want implants, and that's all that was available around our area. And so I found out about this deep flap autologous surgery that uses your own tissue from anywhere in your body. Mine just happened to come from the abdomen area. And I did a complete mastectomy, even though I only had cancer in one. I just did the whole thing, and immediate deep flap surgery in New Orleans at Center for Restorative Breast Surgery. And that was phase 1. And that really turned out really good. And phase 2 is where they make them pretty. They assess the situation and they fill in where it needs to be filled in, lift, move, make them symmetrical. So I didn't even know of that kind of surgery. And
Oh, wow.
so I want people to understand that there are more options out there than they think. So that's my other mission. So I've interviewed two microsurgeons and plastic surgeons, to kind of get the word out there that, hey, if your area doesn't have something that you want, like I didn't want implants, so I was able to get the information to and do my research and get the surgery I wanted.
That's good because I know when you get diagnosed, you're probably raging like, oh my gosh, everything that needs to happen. And, they're going to be listening to Audible, YouTube videos, and then podcasts, is my guess. What can I take from this? But, if you're bringing it all out on the line. It sounds like you are the one source. I mean, if it happened to me, I'm going to be calling you. I'm going to be like,
Oh,
hey, I'm watching your
yeah,
podcast.
and I never listened really to podcasts, and I have actually, not only have I had people on my show who have never interviewed on a podcast, but they've never even listened to a podcast, and now they're listening to podcasts. And
Isn't that funny?
because
Yeah.
I mean, some people are like, I don't listen to podcasts. Well, it's super easy to do. Everybody has a smartphone, and it's super easy. But I was pissed. I was mad that I didn't know about a lot of these things. Like, I wasn't told about these things from my providers. I was mainly told about a lot of these things from people who reached out to me and said, "Hey, Jamie, have you ever heard of this? And I have a friend who did this, and maybe you should look into this. Maybe you should get a second opinion." I've never had to get second opinions in my whole life. Like, I was going along all healthy, not a lot of problems. I had a couple little things, but nothing like this. And I've never had to get a second opinion. And the one surgeon I interviewed, Dr. Manas Chrysopoulos from PRMA in San Antonio, he said he literally tells his patients, go get a second opinion, because it's about shared decision making with your provider.
Yeah.
He wants people to go and get one. And even if they get the same answer, they're going to go into whatever they decide to do more compliant and more comfortable with their decision, just because of that. And so that option was not really given to me. Now I know. Now I want to tell people, hey, your doctor might be amazing. I had amazing doctors, but there might be other options for you. And it's important for you to find your voice and to take people with you who can
Yeah.
help you find that voice.
So I have another question because my mind is going a mile a minute. So I've always wanted to ask somebody this, but I never got to. When you lose your hair, it is fast, like weeks or days, or what is it? Like,
Yeah, it's interesting. I think everyone is different, and that's the whole thing that my husband and I teased about the whole entire time, because our doctors would say everyone's different, everyone's different.
yeah,
Um, I I decided to take my hair loss under my own control, and because I've heard of other people doing that, and I went with some girlfriends to the little hair place up the street, and I got
mhm,
this really cool badass haircut. I got it all shaved on, and it was really short back here, like you see it now,
yeah,
and it was all shaved. Like, this wasn't even there; it was just shaved, and then I had this A-line sort of cut that came down to here, and I loved it. I'm like, oh my god, I love this haircut, and I started my chemo. And I told my husband, I said, once it starts actually coming out, that's when we need to shave it. Well, that badass haircut that I loved lasted 1 week, and it started to fall out. And we went camping the next day when it started to fall out, and I brought the clippers with me. And my husband's one of his best friends videoed and filmed, and his best friend's mom, cut my hair into a pixie, and then my husband shaved it off. And we have it all on video. And the way
wow,
I did it made it less terrible. Like, because I was really freaked out about losing my hair. And a lot of women are. I mean, it's how, it's how it's our it's it's our hair. And it's like,
yeah,
even the breasts. I had a hard time with the fact that I had to have my breasts amputated. And so doing it the way that I did it was nice, because my breasts are my own tissue, my own skin, and I don't have any implants in there. And I always tell people, hey, people get to decide whatever they want. I mean, implants are
yeah,
fine for some people. They don't have any problems with them, and they don't care about that stuff.
mhm,
Totally fine. I just want people to understand that they get to make the decision for what's best for their
yeah,
body, and this was what was best for my body. And but the hair, after a while, when I was bald, it almost was like, bald, and I just kind of went with it. I have a private Facebook group where I went live, and people
mhm,
saw it all. Like, they saw the good, the bad, the ugly. And I at some point was like just sort of embraced the bald. I had these cute turbans and little beanies and things like that. So
Oh, that's
yeah, so for
cool.
me it fell out pretty quick.
Yeah.
It was
Oh,
falling out. But I didn't let it do it on its own. I was like, you know.
yeah. So I want to ask about side effects of chemo. What can people expect for side effects?
Yeah, so well, there's the nausea and there's the heartburn, and but the nice thing about medicine today is if you're keeping track of what's going on with you during each, especially at the very beginning, your doctor should ask you, hey, what side effects are you noticing? Well, for me, I had nausea and I didn't like the nausea med because the nausea med they gave me was giving me enormous headaches, and that was terrible. And so they changed my nausea med, which made it much better. And I generally didn't get nauseous, and I never threw up. Um, Heartburn, it was like there was an
Hmm.
exhaust inside your body, and they gave me a med for that, which was really good. You get very foggy, fog brain, chemo brain, we call it, very, very fatigued. And the more treatments you have, you get it just sort of gets worse. And
Yeah.
so you just sort of expect it, and you get and I got horrendous nosebleeds, terrible nosebleeds.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and so I took care of my oral health. I bought a book called Pretty Sick, and it was this book that was all about how to take care of every piece of your body when you're going through chemo. And everywhere from nail health to mouth health to skin and your head and I mean, she is such a nice, comprehensive book that I read, and I lent it out to somebody so
That's
that they could
good.
read it. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
uh, but many people are different, but there are a lot of similarities in what you go through with chemo, and it also depends on the type of chemo you have. I mean, I didn't know there was all these different kinds of breast
oh
cancers. I didn't
wow.
know that there were all
Yeah.
kinds of different treatments. So, like, I had people actually say to me, "Why don't you just have them?" Because they did the chemo first, and then it was going to be surgery. Where some people have surgery first and then chemo, and I couldn't wrap my mind around why is that. And it's a
Yeah.
valid question, and it's because there's a couple different reasons that I've learned is that it depends on the kind of breast cancer you have, number one.
Gotcha.
Mine typically they do the chemo first, and I didn't have to have radiation, luckily. And it didn't get into my lymph nodes, luckily. And that's another reason you want to catch it early is before it reaches the lymph nodes, because then when it reaches the lymph nodes, you have a whole other myriad of things that happen. But um, I had friends say, why don't they just get in there and cut that sucker out of there right now? Just get that cancer out. And I asked about that, and they said, we want to see what the efficacy is of the chemo. We want to see if this chemo will shrink your tumor. Because if you just cut it out of there and have the surgery, you're not going to be able to tell what the efficacy is. You know what I mean? So
Gotcha.
I so I did the chemo, and within a couple, I would say, treatments,
Hmm.
my oncologist was feeling in there. She says it is definitely shrinking. So we knew that it was working. So if I
Good,
get
good,
it
good.
again, if I was to get that again, we would know that that chemo worked for me.
Good, good, good. And that seems good. Now, with your surgery, how long did it take to recover from that?
Gosh, let's see. It was a long surgery. I want to say I was in there for 8, 9, 10 hours. I don't remember now. But because they did the mastectomy and then reconstruction right there. I want to say that I was feeling pretty good about 8 weeks better, but there
Hmm.
was a lot of therapy that I had to do, a lot of exercises and getting used to my breasts feeling different, like as in
Yeah.
sensation. because you do lose sensation with your breasts, and that really bummed me out because I always was feeling and I still am. I mean, I'm really I love Dr. Cabling, my surgeon. I told
Yeah.
him, I said, if I could never have phase two, you did such an amazing job that I would be okay mentally. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I would say I felt pretty good by the time I went to Hawaii in, I want to say it was late March. I had my
Okay.
surgery in December of last year. And so, yeah, I mean, I healed up pretty good. I had one little wound and they got me an antibiotic and a wound care and it
Mm-hmm.
fixed it right up. So I really didn't have any big complications. It was
Okay.
pretty, yeah.
Pretty out there and getting it taken
Yeah.
care of, and
Yeah,
just,
the surgery is no joke. The surgery is definitely no joke.
no
It
joke.
takes a
I am.
lot. I had to fly home a week after the surgery, and they got pumps on your legs, and you have drains, and your husband and my husband had to give me shots in the back of the arm, and I mean it was a process. You have to have a
Wow.
caregiver.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, thank
yeah,
God you have a husband that was helping you out so much. I feel
yes,
blessed about that.
totally.
Yeah, I would not want to go through that alone, period. And there
Yeah,
are people that have to. So,
they do. And I actually have had people reach out and say, I had another gal reach out to me. Her name is Faith. We're new texting friends and she's on my Facebook and everything. And she actually sent me an email saying, "Hey, Jamie, my name is Faith. I'm in California. I ran across your podcast because I Googled Dr. Cabling's name and I had interviewed Dr. Cabling and my podcast popped up. And she wanted to talk to me about Center for Restorative Breast Surgery and my experience there. And she said when she got breast cancer, she and her husband divorced. And so she
oh
didn't
no.
have, yeah, I mean, so I know like 40% of marriages end up in divorce with these diagnoses. So, my husband is, he and I definitely had some trials and tribulations for sure. But that's the
Yeah.
other thing I'm trying to get out there is that, caregiving. That's something that people need to know about too. So I have my husband and I interviewed on my podcast together about our
Yeah.
role, me being a patient, him being
Yeah.
my caregiver and our relationship. And then I interviewed two gentlemen who are caregivers to their wives. And so that's a part of this. So I wanted to bring that to the forefront as well and bring awareness.
That's good. That's really, really good. Oh my gosh. Wow. I mean, I'm learning so much. I'm just kind of in awe with you. Like, you've been through so much stuff, but here you are just giving this education and knowledge to people. You are the center of hope. So I hope you realize that. Oh my
Well,
gosh.
thank
So,
you.
I
Thank
mean,
you.
now that you're there, I mean, you get back to your life and your daily routines and stuff. Are you traveling more? Have you set new goals in your life?
Oh, yes. We had to cancel quite a few trips to Ireland and other things. We had to cancel all kinds of things because of this. And so my husband and I are now living out my first real year of retirement without cancer. He's on his third year. And yes, we are traveling. We are going to be going to Costa Rica here pretty quick. And then, of course, so we're going to New Orleans again, but that's, I mean, we're going to have a little fun
Yeah.
there and then have my surgery. And then we have a trip to Hawaii again planned for next spring. Then we're going to go on a cruise in June to Alaska. And then with our kids, we're going to
I'm
Greece
jealous.
next September. So yeah, we are living out loud.
Yeah.
We are, living like we could not
Aw,
be here tomorrow. So yeah, yeah.
that's exactly like that's my bucket list, even though, I I I'm still looking for my Mr. Right, of course, but it's like, I've always thought, oh, I need to have somebody in my life to go do this, but I think I've come to terms I don't need to have anybody to do this. It's just called save your money and go and take your kiddos if you want to and explore, have fun, So that is one of my goals is to teach myself more patience and understanding and more self-love. And then, maybe one day I'll get to
Yeah,
meet somebody out there.
yeah, and I think it's really natural for all of us to want to have that human connection with
Of
someone.
course.
And I remember back in my 20s, even into my early 30s, like, am I ever going to meet anyone? Oh my God, nothing ever lasts and all this. And then I turn around and I meet my husband, and we've been together for 20 years. And but I look back and I remember thinking what you're thinking right now, and it
Yeah,
just sort of happens. And I think that once we stop really thinking, this is what I need to be happy, and so I'm going to put my life on hold and all this stuff and not putting myself out there for that human connection. I think once we start being more comfortable and loving ourselves and doing things happen, and
yes, they
so
do.
yeah.
I say the universe, it lines up and then you meet and it can open your heart again
Yeah.
and get that love out there. So I'm holding on to hope.
Well, and
So,
you probably have had enough experience where you know exactly what you don't want.
oh, yes, I do know that. Yes,
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
that. And, that was one thing when I was getting started. I ran a meetup, meetup.com. So I
yes.
used to organize the DFW event planning meetup over there I did that for 8 years, and then I quit to take care of myself as a photographer. I needed to make the business for me and get out there too, and that's what I did. But just recently I started organizing. I felt the need to help other people when they're in abusive relationships, how to find a way out, what are those steps? And I was doing that. And one lady was like, well, I thought this meeting was online because I really want to hear you talk. And I was like, no, I guess I accidentally hit a button. But I was telling one of my members there, like, hey, there's people in different states that want to hear me talk. She goes, huh, maybe you should do a podcast. And now I was like, I never know. And I just kind of rolled with that. And then to make a long story short, I think it was like a month after this person was just talking to me and I listened to the story and, magically he's like, he gave me a bunch of birthday gifts and Christmas gifts, and I guess, we're just friends, but he's like, "You're like a daughter to me, and I want you to start helping people in the world." And that's what I've done. So
I love
I've
it.
been at it since June, I think. I'm on my fourth season. I know with audio, I'm close to 40 episodes now. And I've always been
Awesome.
the one to say, just audio. I don't want to be on YouTube. Don't want people to see me. But I learned I had to quickly get over that.
I
So,
haven't gone over to the YouTube. I do video mine, but I use the
mhm,
clips for teasers is all I do, and then I put it out on audio. I haven't jumped
yeah.
to the YouTube world yet, but someday I probably will. Because
Yeah,
I have all the video, I might as well, right?
yeah, when it saves it, it's like, here you get the audio and you get the video, and then
Yeah.
you do what you want. Now, the one thing I wish I knew more of is reels, and I have to just teach myself that now because those are becoming popular as, I talked about AI and marketing. The one place I haven't really focused too much of my energy is LinkedIn, but I know by next year you better be in LinkedIn. So
Yeah.
I gotta start teaching myself that too. So, but there's all these
I do
changes.
reels. I do reels. I only do reels with my clips. That's the main. I mean, I have, I just have
Yeah,
that kind of knowledge, and also into TikTok world. So TikTok's another one that would
yeah.
be really good for you to go. And I am on
I
LinkedIn.
have,
I don't have the paid subscription though because it's kind of
Yeah, it is expensive. And then I kind of look at the website Alignable. To me, like I wish that LinkedIn and Alignable would join forces, and maybe that I would pay for that, you know? Hey, you two work that out. So,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
it's kind of like one of those things. And then, just getting out there, TikTok. I remember going to my 11-year-old son, how does this work? Like, what do I do? He's like, Mom, you like filters? I go, of course I like filters. And he showed me. I was like, ooh, but I went back to, you remember it was Musically, I think. I'm not
Yes.
even sure if that's TikTok or they got bought out. I don't know the whole story on that, but I guess with my TikTok for Keep Hope Alive, I try to be myself. I love singing. I try to have that creative soul, but it's so funny because I'll look at my website and be like, okay, let me hit the TikTok. And I was just like, wow, if people want to see me being goofy, they can.
Oh
But
yeah. What are
that's
you under? I
the,
if I, you should find me. I'm under Test Those Breasts on TikTok. So if you should find
yeah,
me, and
yes.
I would love to follow you. Yeah, so I've got Instagram, Test Those Breasts, TikTok, Test Those Breasts. And on Facebook, I have a private group that is called Test Those Breasts, and that has some questions that people need to answer so that I can filter out any, people who
I'm
don't need.
noticing the groups are better than the pages. That's what I like.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
and people are there also. They want to be there. I try to do some extra content on there. And I just try to filter out the baddies, that the people who are, unscrupulous and don't need to be there. And so that's why I have questions on there. And then on LinkedIn, I'm under Jamie Allen Vaughn. And so
Mhm.
yeah, so if anybody wants to follow me, I would love that. And
Yes,
I would love
definitely.
to hear more about what you think about the podcast. I've gotten some very, very good feedback. Just I get random messages from people saying, thank you so much for what you're doing. Keep it up. We need you.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm
Yes.
in a huge community.
Yes, I do too. I love it. I'm getting messages too, and it's so empowering.
It
And
is.
yeah, there's the ones, will you marry me? No,
Ah!
I'm not marrying a random person, but
Yeah, thanks,
I
but
will,
no thanks.
yeah, I'll talk to them. I'll get, try to be like, oh, what is it that you do? Try to curve that situation over, but definitely, really quick, I have a couple sponsors I want to talk about, but first of all,
Okay.
weddings. Listen, my boys, how many weddings have you been to in the last, let's say, 5 years?
Oh, goodness. Oh, I would say probably at least one a year.
Oh, that's good.
Except for during COVID, um, like the heat of the COVID. But usually
Yeah.
there's at least one a year but I don't remember offhand.
Well, with every event, weddings usually they have a guest book, right? But
Yeah.
lifeonrecord.com, they are amazing. They do it in the form of a vintage rotary phone that sits there. And so when your guests come in, they can pick up the phone and leave a congratulations message. They can talk for a couple minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. But right next to it, if people are on the phone too long, they have a QR code and you can scan that QR code and do it whenever you want. Now, this is amazing because what they do with all those messages, they'll burn it on a 12-inch vinyl record. And then they also have this thing that looks like a boombox, and they will store all those messages, all those memories. And I gotta say, all the voice. I like hearing voices from, the past. So, but definitely their plans start at $99, and which is good, and you have that phone number for 1 year. So
That's really
you got to
cool.
check out lifeonrecord.com. But I
Life
want to
on
say
record.
I know, live on record. And then we have other sponsors. We have definitely, of course, live on record, but we have partytimetexas.com, your one-stop shop for all your planning needs, whether it's a band, a DJ, a celebrity look-alike, a photographer, videographer, we have it all. So check them out. I did it again. I gotta say we. I work there, by the way. Call me. So
What are they
then
called again? What is it called again?
Party Time Texas. But if we're
Oh,
going to be
that's
accurate,
really,
it's called Bill Cody's Party Time Texas. So people in
okay.
Texas, they know the name Bill Cody. So
I know Bill. I know the name Bill Cody.
you do? That's amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he's been
Well,
in
I was a
business.
history teacher, so
Oh, okay. 47 years he just celebrated. So congrats, Bill.
wow, wow.
Yes. Yes, it's a big step up. We also have Naomi with Bridal Shows Inc. So that's for the Dallas Fort Worth area too. If you are having a wedding or special event, corporate event, and need to talk to some vendors, you can see when those dates are for her special events. We have also Miles and Smiles, DeborahRose.com. She's half investigator, half lipstick reader, half hand palm reader, which is really cool. And then we have Mr. Bryce Harney, who is a magician and mentalist. He's been traveling all around the United States right now, which is really cool. So you can find them at brycemagic.com. And then our last one is Richmond Punch. So richmondpunch.net. He's a violinist. He's been on TV shows, I guess some movies too, for his violin playing. He's played in front of a million people before, but he is most likely hired for a lot of events to go play too. So you got to check him out as well. But once again, I want to say thank you so much to you and you sharing your story. And I'm glad we got your social media links out there to help you out too and
Yes,
bring
thank
more
you very
awareness.
much.
Yes, and your journey is amazing and you're a tough cookie. So, but yes,
Thank you. There is a girl out there on Instagram, and her handle is One Tough Cookie, and she's going to be interviewing with me here pretty quick.
one tough
So,
cookie. Well, tell her I said
One
hi.
Tough Cookie. I will. I was just curious. You mentioned Bill Cody. Did he get his start any outside of Texas by chance?
So Bill was in radio, but
Yeah.
think I think a majority of the time was in Texas. I can't answer that. I will ask
Well,
him though.
yeah. The
And
reason I ask is we used to have a Bill Cody here in Reno on the radio. And so that's what I'm saying is it's like I know, like I know our cultural history here in Reno, and he did leave, and I just never knew where he went. I'm just curious if it's the same guy.
well, I don't want to make fun of my boss, but he talks about the radio station and he's like, my radio stage name is Bill Cody. So I bet it's the same Bill Cody. I mean, I don't know how many Bill Codys are out there, but
Did he go
I'll
by
have to ask
Wild
him.
Bill Cody? Maybe Wild Bill Cody? Because yeah, we had somebody here in Reno, and I'm just so curious. You'll have to let me know.
I will let you know. I will ask him. I will text him too and see if he
Okay.
was Reno and let you know. So, but yeah,
Okay.
he is amazing. I mean, when he came here and what was it? He was with Elvis. There's a story. I don't know if that rings a bell, but he was there like but anyways, I'll have to go into that. I really want to get my boss on here to interview him too.
Oh,
So,
fun. Yeah, yeah. Well,
yeah,
I just really appreciate
thank
your
you.
interviewing me and helping me get my story out there with my podcast Test Those Breasts and
Yes.
my links and everything. And I appreciate your stories, and I look forward to listening to all your other podcasts now that I'm a podcast listener. So,
Yeah, I'm becoming a podcast listener too, and I never used to be. That was the funny thing. I was like, podcast? I go, even if you just listen, put your earbuds in and listen to me at night, you don't have to watch a video or anything. I
right,
mean, that's what I
right.
did with Audible. That's what I do with music
Yeah,
to help me fall
exactly.
asleep. I mean, it's the same I think stories make me fall asleep faster.
Well, that's why people always say, "Oh, I need to listen. I need to watch your podcast." And I go, "You don't need to watch. Just put your ear and listen to it on as you're driving or something like that, or when you're doing the laundry or whatever it is."
Yes.
So, yeah,
Yes, and you can learn and get educated very quickly that way.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much. It was a pleasure. So, and happy Thanksgiving, everybody. It's a
Y-
special day, and I'm so happy we had you on today. So, but until next time, love and light, everybody. Mwah! We love you. Have a
Mwah,
great, I was like, mwah! That's my little
mwah.
trademark.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.